Did y'all meet through 300 Letters?
Kind of, sort of. No, I reached out to him on my personal page though.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw him on the Rogan show, and I just love everything he was talking about. You know, like, and the way he just owned his story and just told his truth, and that's everything that 300 Letters is about. Like, just teaching people how to own their truth and tell their story. And I was like, man, let me just hit this dude up and let me see if I can send him a shirt or something. And he actually wrote back. I didn't think he was gonna write back, but yeah, and like less than 2 weeks, he hit me back, and he actually said he was gonna be in Miami, so we met in person, and we just hit it off ever since. So
yeah, when I read your story, and then I quickly watched the Rogan episode, and I just immediately thought of what Legend's trying to accomplish, and so I was like, bro, you got to be in on this. It's just too close to home. So yeah. I feel like you both are on a path of trying to help and trying to make a difference. So I just wanted to put y'all in a room together again. Absolutely. And I mean, I'm just humbled to be in the room with you. I mean, seriously, like the first thing I said, I was like, man, I hope I don't start bawling crying, because like the first sentence of reading that you were locked up as long as you were as an innocent man, like it just, for me, it hurts your heart, like as just a person that loves people, you know. So just hearing that, so I would just love to hear a little bit more about your story, and but seriously honored and just humbled that you decided to do this with us, because
absolutely,
you know, we're small potatoes considered to Joe Rogan, but it's just a blessing. So thank you, and also too, just know that we're here to help. Like, I would love to be a part of your movement and try to do something for, you know, to make a difference. So
thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
And as Legend said, when we met via Instagram, you know, it was instant. You know, it was instant mesh, and you know, we hit it off right away, because he was doing some of the things that I had been doing while I was inside. You know, working with children of incarcerated parents, working with families that are impacted by mass incarceration, and just trying to nurture that bond between the children and the parents that are inside. So that's been a passion of mine for years. So, you know, it was an easy match between him and I to meet each other. And then when he invited me and told me about you, I says, you know, I'm all in. You know, it doesn't matter the size, it matters the quality and how meaningful what you're doing is.
Yes, sir.
That really matters. And that's what I'm about. I'm more about impact than just the aesthetics, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's important to me. After being incarcerated at 23 years old, sentenced to 37 and a half to life for a homicide that, that the world knows I didn't commit, and also by a prosecutor who, you know, had a history of being, engaged in a misconduct, what they call prosecutorial misconduct. Several of the convictions that he was involved in have been overturned. And crying out for years and saying, look at this guy's background, look at his background, look at the facts of the case, look at the attorney, look at the situation, and not being heard for so long, or not being felt like I was being heard, but continuing to pound the pavement. I remember what really kept me going. I remember one time I was in Green Haven Correctional Facility, which is a maximum security prison in New York State. And I was coming back from the law library, and an older guy that had been down a while had just got his conviction overturned. And he was walking by me, and he stopped and he said, "Little bro, I always see you in the law library. I want to tell you something." He said, "Keep doing what you're doing. Persistence overcomes resistance." And that always rang in my head over the years. This was in 1997, he told me this. And over the years, I just kept that. And I just kept pounding the pavement, and working and fighting to get my freedom back. I mean, it took a while, but I understand that you can't lose hope. So I never thought of myself as doing a life sentence. I never said I was going to do life, despite what the judge said. I always felt that the truth would prevail at some time, and that I would be vindicated. However, I mean, it's been a long nightmare, and you go through the ups and the downs, but I never accepted it. I never accepted 37 and a half to life. I never accepted it. I immediately, I started going into the law library and reading and studying my case, but also I started changing my attitude and my mindset, right? Because for me, mindset is everything.
Everything.
And I rejected the idea of just doing a bid. You know, I would sometimes walk the yard, lift weights, work out, and then you see guys just bidding. I didn't want to just do a bid. I didn't want to just serve time. So I figured out a way to have time serve me, right? By rejecting that and changing my mindset. Because I firmly believe, and you'll hear me say this often, is when you change the way that you look at things, things change the way that they look. So I started seeing, you know, the cell that I occupied as an office. You know, I started seeing the school building as like a university, right? And for me, I didn't go to the yard. I was just telling Sabrina this morning that the yard for me was, you know, that was something that I did with intention, specifically to work out, not to just spin the yard. So very rare would I go find myself outside hanging out, because that's where all the violence happens, right? That's where the gangs crew up at, and nothing good happens in the yard. So if you're working out and you finish your workout an hour and a half, and you take it on inside, those are your best chances of staying out of the way. You know what I mean? Staying out of the trouble and not being defined by your worst circumstances. And for me, that's what it was. I never wanted to be defined by prison, by incarceration, right? I never wanted to be a person that you can just Google and say, well, he's convicted for murder, that's who he is. I never wanted to be defined by that. So I conditioned my mind, and I began to follow through on some of my goals and my aspirations. I started creating vision boards in the cell, affirmations on the wall, and I just started, doing and acting and living as if I was a free man. I decided that I was going to thrive despite being in prison, as opposed to just surviving.
I love what you said, because my brother says it all the time, is that you're either getting bitter or you're getting better.
That's right.
And to me, that's something that even as free men, we need to understand, because things are going to happen to you, but what are you doing to change your circumstances? So that just stood out to me, because my brother says it. I don't know, you remember Peyton says that all the time,
Yeah, that's deep. That's deep. I mean, because I feel like with my sentence, I kind of took the same approach, but it was on such a smaller scale that I don't even want to compare it, really. I was only got sentenced to 47 months, and out of that time I did like 2.5 years because of the RDAP program, and the whole time I was just like working at getting better. But my date was right there already. Like I knew when I was going home, it was pretty close for me. So yeah, working out, taking as many classes as I could, like just kind of staying busy, staying out the way. But man, that's why I look at this guy and it's just amazing to me, because again, I can't even compare it, bro. That's why he's like a true mentor to me, and he's been studying this for so much longer than I have, that I just sit back and listen, bro. So it's amazing, really.
But everybody has their story,
Everybody has their
and
story.
I think that you have to speak from exactly what you said earlier, is that you got to tell your story, because it's authentic to you, and there's someone out there that's going to be able to relate to your story. And it's very hard to relate to Bruce's story, but I think the one thing that is relatable is just the choice. The thing you said, it's a choice, it's a decision. Our decisions determine our outcome. That's every single day we have a choice to do the right thing or do the wrong thing, or to do something that's about growth and learning, or to take steps backwards. So it's that. And you did it in the worst of circumstances, but you still did it.
Yes.
And there's people today. We've got staff that we try to, these young kids, we try to tell them, do this, and they're free. So it's impeccable. Just I can't even. It's almost like you don't even know what to say. But
that's why I say mindset is so important, because even if they're free, even if a person is free, how they process and view the world, it makes a difference. Like you said, things are going to happen, but you have control over your response to those things, right, and how you navigate those challenges, right? How you navigate the terrain of life. You have a choice to sit back and really make a conscious decision and to live with intentions. Right? I live with intentions. Every step, every move that I make is with intentions, because at some point, when you begin to visualize your life in a particular way, it's gonna manifest. I used to read this book called The Power of the Subconscious Mind. That, along with Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, right? But The Power of the Subconscious Mind would always talk about what you put inside your mind before you go to bed, whatever questions you may have, you'll find the answers, right? Sometimes 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning, your subconscious just takes over and you receive the answers. So that worked for me in school, right? Then I started doing it throughout life, right? And it started working for me. And I would literally visualize myself walking out of prison, right? Visualize myself, being in the room with good people like I'm in here now. I would literally sit back in the cell and envision myself walking out, because I would read certain things at night. Sometimes I would reread family letters that I've had for months or years, read them. And then I would read my book, and I would just let that be the last thing that I pour into my mind, and ask, just ask the universe, how can I figure it out? Help me figure it out. What is tomorrow going to be like, in terms of my growth, my development, my step forward into figuring out this maze that I found myself in, right? And I would just pound the pavement, and guys would say, yo, you always in the library. Can you help me with this? I said, I can give you some words. I can try to help you, but it's important that you get involved yourself. And it ain't just about, the law. It's about changing your mindset. Mindset is everything. It's everything, because once you, as within, so external, right? What's internal is external. So what you put inside is going to come through, and it's going to manifest itself. So you really, really have to focus, man. You got to have that keen vision and affirmations and words and just what it is that you want to be and see in life. It's so important to see ourselves as being more than our circumstances. A lot of times, even in society, people that are living in marginalized communities, they've never envisioned themselves outside of that. So I always believe that poverty is not just a physical condition, but it's a mindset, right? It's a mindset, how you internalize it, how you process the world around you. Do you feel like this is a space that you're supposed to occupy? Or do you want to see yourself transcend that space? And if you do, there are sacrifices that you have to make in order to transcend it. There are choices that you got to make. Every day you got to make a series of good choices in order to transcend your circumstances.
It's interesting. That's something that I do in all the gyms. I don't know if you notice all the words, but people constantly tell me, like, thank you, because they'll be in the middle of the workout and then they'll look up and they'll say, discipline, or they'll look up and they'll say consistency compounds over time, or, fatigue makes cowards of us all. Like, it's reminding them of their why, like why they're doing it, why they're putting themselves through that, because it makes you better. So all these affirmations are on purpose. When I read your story too, No Days Off falls right in line with exactly who you are. You are the epitome of what No Days Off was about. So a lot of people think that No Days Off is like, the grind and never not working out and stuff. But No Days Off is never taking a day off on yourself. And it's a commitment to becoming your best self. That's It's every single day. It's not who I am, it's who I'm becoming. And you literally are that. And it's just great to see somebody in your position taking that stand and then being an example to everybody else. So
yeah, you internalize. These are not mere words; these are principles that we live by, right? That's why those words are so important. There's no other gym that has that like that. And what people don't realize is even physical conditioning. It's a mindset. It's a mindset. A healthy man has 1,000 wishes. An unhealthy man has one. Right? He has one. And that is to get healthy,
right?
Right. But a healthy guy, he has 1,000 wishes. So in a sense, you're mentally free when you're physically healthy, right? As
your mind works better too. When you're physical, it's all connected.
It's all connected.
They say, like, if you ever want to, like, have like a good study session, go for a 10-minute walk or get a little workout in before you start to study. It creates that. It just opens you up. So. So true.
That's a part of my therapy. I tell Legend every weekend in New York, I make it my business and to wake up early in the morning to either go running in the park by myself or just to go walk and sit in nature for a couple hours to process, to think, to take in the air. Because what you put in is what you're gonna get out, and that's a part of my therapy. Coming from a volatile environment that was always hostile. Always tremendous amount of noise. Sometimes I look back and I wonder how I was able to write 10, 20-page college papers when, you got one guy blasting Little Baby, another guy might be blasting Tupac, another guy blasting reggaeton. Like everybody's competing on who can play the loudest music, especially in Sing Sing.
Yeah.
Everybody's blasting their radio, and you're coming from, from college, and you're not separate from these guys. You're in the midst of the jungle. They don't put you in a separate block and say, all right, this is a college block. That's not how it works. Yeah. You won't go to college. You got to deal with the noise and the madness and everything else. In the midst of that, you have to walk in your power, and it takes a lot to do that. When I reflect back, I say, how was I able to graduate, right? When you come back from school, 9 o'clock at night, guys are blasting their radio, and you got to sit back. You got to try to put in some earbuds and read and write. It's difficult, but it can be done with keen focus, right? When you understand that you have a purpose and you understand your why you're doing what you're doing, because you want to be better and not bitter. Once you understand your why, nothing else can stop you.
You're not your past mistakes. You're not. You can overcome it. You can become something just because you are labeled this. The label is what kills me. The way we label people.
Well, I got a new label for Felando. As formerly entrapped leaders overpowering negativity.
Ooh, I like that.
So they never gonna stop calling you that, but we could rebrand it.
Yeah. So you can rebrand it.
There it is.
Yeah.
You can rebrand it. And it's there's so many good guys, man. Like, I was just on the phone a few days ago with a guy named Keith Lamar. This guy's been on death row for over 30 years. He's been in solitary confinement for 30 years.
What?
For a prison riot. It's called the Lucasville riot. It happened in Ohio in maybe 1993. 11 people died. They said he was responsible for 5 of them. They've done documentaries on him. People from the prison said this guy was in the yard. He couldn't have done it. He's innocent. He's about 6'4", but he's the humblest and the wisest guy, and probably one of the strongest people I know. He still wakes up, does his push-ups, and all this other stuff. He's done a jazz album from death row.
No way.
Yeah, he's done a jazz album from death row.
How do you even do that?
Yeah, they're doing concerts for him across the world.
Wow. To
get him off of death row. Because so many people believe in him and believe in his story, right? But to withstand 23-hour lock-in, he actually teaches he has a book club in Manhattan at a school where he reads with students like every week.
Is Josh Dubin helping with that?
No. Peter Stern is involved with him now. I introduced Peter Stern to him, but he has Albert Marquez, who is a pianist. I actually went to D.C. and we for the French embassy held the concert there for him while he was on death row. They did a concert there, and I got to speak to Dr. King's son about the death penalty and how it impacts. It serves no one any good. Right? And number one, it's not a crime deterrent, because if that was the case, there would be no crime in Texas and Pennsylvania. There'd be no crime at all.
Right.
It's not a deterrent at all. But it has errors, right? It's not error. It's not something that doesn't have mistakes. People have gone to death wrongfully convicted. So why would you have that still in place? And this is one guy that I actually found him in the newspaper while I was in prison, and I read the story and said, if I ever get out, I'm going to help this guy really, really hard. And so I met Mark Howard one day, and at a lunch, I didn't know who Mark was. I was with my lawyer, Josh Dubin, and Mark Howard was with Marty Tancliffe. Marty Tancliffe I knew from being convicted for allegedly killing his parents, who he was exonerated for, right? And Mark Howard helped him get out. And I mentioned Keith Lamar, and Mark Howard said, I'm going to visit that guy tomorrow. That's a friend of mine. And I said, give him my number. And, he and I speak all the time. But every time I speak to him, I break down, because you're listening to this human soul on death row that's still, he's unbroken. He's still, crying out for his innocence and crying out to get off death row. He was sentenced to die last November 16th. And, he got a reprieve for 3 or 4 years. And the more I was learning about him and getting to know him, the more I started learning about the Ohio prison system. It might be one of the worst in the country for juveniles and everything. A lot of people talk about Texas and Oklahoma, but Ohio is right up there with them, if not worse. All right, so this is something it's across the country, man. And there are good people in bad places. And so I've taken this thing personal, and it's part of my life's mission to lift as I climb, to do what I can to help those and to share their stories and to give them a voice, right? So society can, can know who they are.